All right, there we go. Let me officially welcome everybody here from the Fowler College of Business, or if you're a guest from one of our other colleges, I'm glad you're able to kind of see some of the great programming that we put on here. We have this series called the Fireside Chat, where we take industry experts in many different areas of career paths, usually related to our business school. And we're bringing them out and we talk to them about their career path. How do they get where they are? What advice do they have to share with you so that you can be successful? Ultimately, every single one of us has their own career path. If you ever sit down with me, you'll see mine goes every, which way. But ultimately, we want to give each of you the tools to get to where you want to be faster and quicker. And so this is designed to do that for you. So my phone didn't go on silent, so we got that fixed. So with further ado, I want to introduce you to Ana Olson. Ana Olson is an alum of our international business program here at San Diego State, focused Latin American studies, right? She was one of our homecoming queens, so very active here on campus life. She's one of you, first generation American from family, right, from Mexico. First generation student to graduate from college. So there's probably a lot of different things that you're experiencing now as a student that Ana has been able to experience, and she can talk to you how she overcame each and every one of those challenges, and that's what we're going to kind of focus on today. So Ana is a principal consultant and director at Booz Allen Hamilton. She's been privileged to be there for many years now. Not too many though, right? Because you're barely older than the crew here. But I'm really proud that she's here today. One of our own coming back to talk with us today. So. And let's just start with talking about your current role at Booz Allen Hamilton. If you wouldn't mind just kind of describe what you do. And I know that probably changes on a day-to-day basis. So what do you do as a consultant?
So thank you for the invitation to be here. I am honored, actually. I love spending time with San Diego State alum and being on campus. It's something that I really enjoy, and it brings back a lot of great memories. So I am a principal director at Booz Allen Hamilton. I started as a junior analyst there, so my career has also taken me various paths within Booz Allen itself. As Greg mentioned, I'm an international business major. So I started out really helping at Booz Allen develop cost estimates for our international clients like USAID and World Bank. And then I'll fast forward to what I do today, which is not in international business, but rather in management consulting and IT consulting for the Department of Defense. So I wear two specific hats there. I'm a functional expert in analytics, supporting and delivering talent to our Navy in that regard. And then I oversee a large portfolio of accounts, as we call them. So the Navy has various branches. So I lead a group of contracts that are associated with acquisition command. And so the acquisition command here, it is focused on delivering the IT systems that go on ships, submarines, and aircraft. So a very important part of our DoD, and something that I'm very proud of. If that helps.
Yeah, awesome. But why consulting? What got you interested in doing that? And I hear that it's not easy to get into. So how did you do it?
That's a great question. So I didn't come out of San Diego State or even go to school, let's say, to study to be a consultant. You kind of just fall into it. You learn it as you go. I didn't know what Booz Allen was. I didn't know what they did. But what I did know was that I wanted to serve in some capacity. I didn't know what that looked like. So I think understanding what your trade is, if you're studying business or if you're studying any type of domain, like whether it's biotech or pharmaceutical, you're not really going in to be a consultant. You're going in to help them achieve a certain mission, whether it's doing analytics or solving some complex engineering problem. And then you become somewhat of an expert in that particular field over time, but it takes time to kind of learn that craft and what you like, and then, whoop, you know, all of a sudden somebody's asking you for some advice on something that you built, like a deliverable. Maybe you built like a simple analysis that really resonated with your client or with your boss, and that leads into more opportunities that feel and look similar. And then you become that consultant. Why? You start to be asked the questions of like, well, how did you get to this specific answer? Or can you tell me a little bit of why you assumed these, you know, rule sets here? And that's when you start to become the consultant, say, organically do it.
Yeah, and you've probably been a part of solving so many problems, but is there any particular project or opportunity that you just found to be more rewarding or an accomplishment that really sticks out?
I think a lot of times folks look at, you know, what they're most proud of in those accomplishments. I like to actually look at the places where I really like face planted hard and had to pick myself up. So I can think about two specifically. One is a junior analyst where I was asked to build a cost estimate and for a Navy client, and a lot of times those cost estimates go up the chain, I will say, of levels of service, if you will, and they make it to Congress. They make it that it becomes like a budget for the president to approve. It becomes something that the Office of Secretary of Defense uses to make sure that they budget the right amount of funding to deliver these IT systems. So I delivered my analysis, and I didn't flip like a little kind of toggle that I had built in my Excel spreadsheet. Keep it simple, number one. Don't build fancy formulas that you forget how to use. And so my analysis that was published was wrong. It was off by a certain percentage. And luckily for me, it was in a percentage that was reasonable to accept that risk. But had it been bigger, it really would have caused a detriment to the budget that was approved. So one is like kind of own your mistakes and be like have the integrity to kind of accept, like tell someone that there's a mistake in there because there could be consequences. And then because it builds some credibility as well, like you build that trust with your colleagues and with your clients. And the second piece is, you know, that required me to do a lot of extra work afterwards. So, you know, living up to those mistakes, owning them, and then fixing them, you know, I think goes a long way in building your own credibility and brand. So that's one that's memorable to me because I learned a lot about myself and, you know, that perseverance that we all need. We all want to get it right regardless of level, but especially when you're at the entry level, it's really important that you take, you know, your successes and failures as learning opportunities.
I get an opportunity to sit down with a lot of entrepreneurs, and they have very similar stories about how they got to be successful, right? You get those first challenges, and maybe most people see them as a failure, and they see them as a learning opportunity that they grow from. So thank you for sharing. With that said, what do you credit as far as the success to get to where you are now? You're no longer a junior analyst.
Again, that sort of, it's really important that you stay the course, like you continue to learn. I think a lot of folks, when they graduate, even I had this perception of like, okay, I have my degree, I'm gonna, my first job, I'm gonna have like a corner office, I'm going to, you know, like have an executive assistant, all of these like perks, right? But it takes a long time to build that brand. So the way I got there by just being consistent, saying yes to opportunities, even if I didn't know them, but also telling the person that was asking me if I could take on a new role. I would be honest and say like, yes, I'll take it, but it's gonna require me this much more time because I don't know it. So give me some time to learn it. And a lot of times you end up kind of learning on your own time. It requires like your own investment of time, and then it requires you to deliver and be okay with not getting it right. It's an iterative process. So having the courage to kind of show something to your boss or your client and asking them their opinion, like, what do you think of this? And, if they're a good boss, they're gonna say like, well, I like this, but these are the areas that you missed the mark, why don't you go back? That's the expectation that you should have from a supervisor, is that they give you feedback. But you need to have the courage to kind of show your work in a sense. And I think for me, going from junior analyst to where I am today, it was that consistency of, yes, asking for more, putting in my own time, them trusting and building that trust that I was gonna deliver and commit to that deliverable. And that's why I built my brand. And so then you just keep at, then all of a sudden everybody's asking you for help. And then you'll have to say, no, I don't have time. But it's really important that you show consistency, your willingness to step in and help. And your willingness to be vulnerable, because you won't have all the right answers. Okay.
That's really great advice. And so my next question is not one that I put on our topic list, but because of what you shared, kind of brings me to what a lot of students share with me, and it's this idea of imposter syndrome. You're talking about having the confidence to do something, but that's not always easy. Was there ever a moment where you kind of had that feeling while you were working at Booz Allen or anywhere else, and how did you overcome that feeling?
Have it all the time, and still today, you will always have some level of healthy imposter syndrome. You have to, especially if you really want to be giving your best, then there's always going to be that uncertainty that you feel, those butterflies, or just kind of like, what, how am I here kind of thing. Like, these people around you are so brilliant, but you have to remember that you earned your seat at that table, whatever level you are in. It requires a diverse set of opinions, perspectives. Building a team, building a deliverable requires different skill sets. So again, like, if you are wanting to go in consulting and have a knack for engineering, or have a knack for some type of science, like a life science, then there's always going to be somebody in the room that has a different responsibility. So that imposter, you have to recognize like what your role is on the team. Sometimes you're going to be leading, sometimes you're going to be following, and sometimes you're just going to be cheerleading, and so you have to understand what your role is and deliver against that. If that makes sense.
See, I'm not sure that I'm a moderator for a program like this. I've done it many times, but every time, I get these nerves. We ultimately just gotta do it, right? So let's back up a little bit. Pre-Booz Allen Hamilton, you are deciding to come to SCSU. You're a proud Aztec. You're still connected with several of your peers today, from the cohort that you were a part of. What originally brought you here, and why are you an Aztec for life?
Thank you. So, San Diego State, as a child, I knew I was going to come to San Diego State. It was like my dream school. I'm not sure who planted the seed. Greg mentioned, I'm the first to graduate in my family, so I didn't have a lot of role models that had graduated and were helping me navigate like how to get here. But somehow, maybe I watched a show or got a pamphlet or whatnot. I'm not sure, but I visited the school on purpose. I'm from the Central Valley of California, so there's a train from Fresno to San Diego and a bus and all that good stuff. So by the time I was 13, my parents were putting me on the bus. I would spend my spring breaks here, get my San Diego State gear, and then go back. And that's what I would wear, like, since I was 8th grade or something. So fast forward to when I had to register for college, I didn't know that I wanted to be like an international business major. I had gone into my career counselor in high school and said, I want to be able to travel to Latin America and help, the children there get hygiene. I was very into like making sure all of them like toothbrushes. I wanted to make sure all the kids have toothbrushes. It's like, okay, well, and forgive me, that my career counselor in high school, I don't think they had a degree. They just were like a parent that were, like volunteering to talk to students. So it wasn't someone I was saying, but she's like, okay, you want to be an international business consultant, just travel around with a suitcase selling people. Like, okay, well, that's it. So then I looked at San Diego State and it turned out San Diego State had the #6 in the country international business program, and it was relatively new. So already they said, okay, love San Diego State, and they have a great international business program that was meant to be. So that's how I ended up here. But throughout, like I had somebody help me through the FAFSA, like I had the programs, worked my way through college, I had a few scholarships and whatnot, but that was the other thing that I really loved about the university is because they were so helpful in trying to help all students graduate with little to no debt, or how to help them, navigate the grants and the loan system at the time. I'm sure it's evolved and hopefully it's better, but I found San Diego State in that regard super, because I was able to pay off my debt relatively quickly and just had an overall great experience dealing with the office here. And just a fun little fact, like my grant kind of officer is now the principal at the junior high where my kids went to school.
That's really cool.
And I was in Maya Hall. So Maya Hall was my freshman living learning center. What I heard from a lot of people is that their parents made them do it and they didn't want to go there because it was just a freshman and it wasn't part of the cool kids club. And meanwhile, in my head, I'm like, I was the one, like I was one of my parents, I have to be in this program, I have to be in this program, and nobody else. So, that's just fun.
And so for those of you who are still choosing your major, IB is still an excellent program here on campus. So check it out if you're still looking. On the idea about parents and pushing their students, I'm an adopted Aztec. I didn't really even know much about San Diego State when I was growing up. I was born and raised in San Antonio and went to a small Catholic school called St. Mary's, where my dad went. I was essentially a legacy student because my dad went there and I understood the pathway there. You didn't have that, right? You didn't have a parent that you could turn to who said, this is how you do it. So as a first-gen student, what kind of challenges did you face while you were here on campus, and what did you do to stand out and be successful?
That's a great question. It was, I'm not gonna lie, it was super hard, and that's why I really wanted to be in a program and push my parents. So my dad lives in Mexico. My mom is first generation with Mexican parents. She graduated from high school. My dad had like an 8th grade education. So that was really hard for a lot of reasons. One, macho, like, why are you going so far? No, you should just, go here. Why aren't you even considering getting married? It was just very culturally, like, not the norm for him to have a daughter, firstborn, want to like leave the house, like independently. It seemed like, what, who's gonna take care of you, that kind of thing. So again, building that trust, but it was tough, like had to kind of bend, like, trust me, I need to go away and, this is gonna be a great program. It can be a little bit embarrassing, like asking for loans and going in and grabbing it, but like I said, San Diego State was very welcoming in that regard, discretionary, I guess, discreet. But I don't know how to explain it. It's a little lonely in a way, but you have to persevere. You have to kind of learn and navigate. I think that's what makes good consultants as well. Like, you gotta find ways, you gotta research, you gotta ask a lot of questions and have the courage to be vulnerable and get the information you need to solve a problem. So for me, it was like, how do I navigate this school and, let the parents know that I'm not being delinquent, but I'm actually studying and going to school and whatnot. But I think a lot of first generation students deal with that because their parents, they want to trust them, but don't know. They also are trying to protect their children, right? Like from whatever it is, danger, failure, debt, so I think a lot of Christians struggle with that sort of, let me go home and stay home with my parents so they don't worry about me, but let me fly and let me like meet my own goals. So it's a balance.
I think that a lot of students in general struggle with the fears of their parents, right? And so overcoming that and being, brave and bold to do your own thing and create your own path is kind of a common story. But definitely, it's not easy when you have to be the first to do something, like that. But I think, part of your success, and I want you to talk about it, but I think part of your success is you did, join this community. You're active in sororities, you were part of campus life. How did that actually ultimately help make you better, ultimately to graduate and succeed? And how did it prepare you to be a better professional? Even though it's not professional stuff we're talking about.
Right, so campus life was amazing, I think so. The other reason why I love San Diego State is because it was a large school, right? I grew up in a very small rural town. Everybody knew everybody was in the business. So I thought, oh, I'm gonna come to a school that's large and I'll kind of disappear. But what I learned was that there were so many clubs and communities on campus. I found like my little tribes, like affiliated with like NECHA, affiliated with the student body council, and got involved that way and made a lot of friendships that way. And what I learned was how to do a lot of things like manage a budget. I learned how to advocate for students, advocate for myself, like, be a voice for others. I was in a sorority, I was a Sigma Kappa, and that taught me leadership skills. So I was like VP of membership. So when you need to recruit, you have to talk to people. And I think that's what really helped me in consulting. At the end of the day, I felt very comfortable, not always confident, but very comfortable talking with people, asking them questions and building that trust. So I think I highly recommend you get involved in some type of campus life because you do learn these business skills or soft skills. Again, talking to superiors, teachers, recruiters, all of that. It's highly beneficial.
Yeah, and you also held a elected position representing, I guess, your program with associated students. How was that challenge, right? You have to go out and get other people to buy into your message, right?
Yes, it was kind of like going back to even high school though, like vote for Lana, it was kind of awkward. But the beautiful thing about international business major is that you can graduate with both a college, the College of Business and the College of Arts and Letters. If you take I think the font, that's so I was representing the College of Arts and Letters, and again, representing the whole student body. A lot of people don't get involved, but you learn so much about just governance, and government in general. And I was here when Dr. Stephen Weber was here, and he was also involved. So we kind of get to see how the campus and how leadership on campus decisions are made. Like when there's a new dean that comes in for your college, or the student body is actually very involved in that, which is very encouraging to see at the time.
Yeah, one of the ways that the IB program has evolved since you're here is we now have a 4+1 program where you take 4 years in the IB program and then you have 1 year and you can get your master's in global business development. Really excellent program, and they're getting ready to actually head off to Romania in a few weeks as part of their culminating experience. So
that's amazing. That wasn't here.
We'll get you reconnected with them.
Back to school.
So how about mentorship, right? And so your father was kind of against you coming to San Diego State, you're a first-gen student, and you don't really have that person who you look to. Did you have any kind of mentors while you're here on campus? And how about now at Booz Allen Hamilton? Do you currently have a mentor?
I had 2 major mentors here at San Diego State. One was in the Latin American studies. I emphasized in Latin America, and an incredible mentor just helping me navigate not just my studies, but also campus living, away from home and whatnot. And it was a great sounding board, like a lot of folks, but I'll say I had I had a diverse set of mentors, and some teachers are just not as open to doing that. Maybe they're overwhelmed, have too many on their plate or whatnot. And then others are, very much ready and encouraging and will make the time for you. So if you find somebody that you aspire, like you are inspired or inspired by their leadership and the way they teach, then I highly encourage you to find some time to meet with them and ask them how they ended up where they are as far as being a teacher, professor. Most of them have other jobs, other careers, and they teach because they love it, not because they have to. So I found that very interesting as I spoke to my mentors when I was at San State. And then throughout your career, you will definitely want mentors and you need them because your mentors become sort of your sounding board for like the things that frustrate you, but they also end up being your advocates too for promotion, for salary increases, for bonuses or whatnot. But the mentors have to also be very open, give you that feedback. So you could have mentors that say, you're doing a good job, you know, but you really want those folks that are gonna push you. And you can have mentors in different areas. Like if you need a mentor to help you with your public speaking, then you find that leader or peer that is you find, you know, inspiring again, you like their style. You may want a mentor to help you elevate your technical acumen in, you know, your decision analytics and how you are building your models. You know, always look for that person that you aspire to be like, and you know, it's a compliment to them too, like and they want to give you their time to you. So mentorship throughout your career, it's never too early to find them, honestly. So I'm trying to encourage you.
I get the privilege of mentoring graduate students in our Ballard College of Business program, and a lot of times they are in some kind of career transition. And Greg, I want to work at Booz Allen Hamilton. How do I do that? Greg, I'd like to work in biotech. How do I do that? And the very first thing I usually tell them is network, right? And I don't just tell them this, I give them a complete blueprint on it. But hearing something from you, I think resonates a lot stronger. So why is networking so important to career success?
It is incredibly important. It's important because, again, going back to when you start at an entry level position or if you're a grad student, you have some experience and you're coming in, you know, just at a mid-level position, building the trust with your colleagues and peers is paramount. And those are your like frontline network. Like you deliver the commitment that you made to that team, that's gonna just lead to more opportunities within the firm or the project that you're in. And then that expands your network, and then it just grows, it flourishes. And so when you're ready to make a move, people come and go in firms as well. So keeping in touch with those colleagues that have moved on from, you know, I'll say from Booz Allen, I still keep in touch with them because you just never know when you need to team with them, or maybe you can recruit them back. Maybe they have an opportunity for you that they feel like you're a great fit for, but it is a career enhancement and sometimes a career springboard for you. So the network and Booz Allen in general, it really lauds itself on the power of the network because you can just send one email and ask, hey, does anybody know? I don't know, so-and-so, and then you get like a flurry of folks saying like, I worked with him when he was a lieutenant, and, you know, so you start to gather this information to make your case or whatever case you're gonna make stronger based on your network. People will help you be successful that way.
Yeah, it truly is such a powerful thing, networking for your career. And, you know, if you start now, it's something that you're investing in that carries on with you for the rest of your career. It's got exponential power, meaning that every new contact that you make, you get their whole network too, right? You know, so, you know, come visit with me at the Career Management Center, we'll chat about it. But one of the things when I'm talking with the students and I'm trying to teach them how to do it, okay, you want to go into consulting, here's an alum, we found her at Booz Allen Hamilton. This is Ana Olson. Why would Ana Olson want to talk with me? Can you kind of give them some insights? Why are you interested in chatting with our students if they were to reach out to you?
Well, it depends on how they reach out and what they need, right? So I've had San Diego State students reach out. Some want me to look at their resume. Some found a job requisition on Booz Allen site and you know, asked if I could just refer them, happy to. Because of the way, my background, the way I grew up, I'm always paying it forward. I have to. I feel it's a responsibility and I care about San Diego State representation in the defense consulting industry. So, those, I'm not always successful, but I always give it a good, honest try if folks, do the research as well. So I've also had students, say like, can you find me a job? It's like, well, tell me what you're looking, like, you do the research first, and then I will take a look at your resume and say, okay, then, and, it's not, it takes a little bit of time, but, like I said, I think it's a responsibility for all of them, San Diego State alumni to help each other, out, and I'm happy to do it.
And every relationship that you're going to develop in this network has the ability to pay off down the road, right? So it's like this energy that you build up and then you put it into action in the future. So Anna's been gracious to come out here and speak to you today. Someday she's going to ask me, Craig, can you do something for me, right? It may not be today, but in the future, right? So when you make that connection with Anna, right, and you put in the work and you've approached her in the right way, right? She's going to remember that. And she's going to remember, hey, you might be a great star off doing something, and someday you might be able to help her, right? So those are symbiotic relationships that you're going to develop, and that's why Anna's story is not unique, right? Executive after executive telling you, similar types of things on why they'll network with you. But again, the keys are you got to put in the work, and you got to ask the right way, right? What kind of advice would you give our students if they want to work at Booz Allen Hamilton today? And let me be a little more specific, right? What are the types of things that would set them apart? If you're looking at a candidate pool and, it could be on the resume or it could be in the interview, and you say, this is one that I'm not going to let go.
That's a great question. So, we, at Booz Allen, we hire consultants across various disciplines. So it's not just your regular business admin, finance, or organizational change management. It's engineering, it's cyber, it's logistics, it's artificial intelligence now. So there's a lot of skill sets required to deliver to our clients. Some of the standout items on a resume have to do with work experience, and it's not just work experience in consulting, like it is work experience in general. Like if you are a manager at the, Bonds down the street, like that shows initiative, it shows that you can multitask, you're taking a full workload and you've done X, Y, Z. So please, and I've seen it before at job fairs where students will kind of downplay again, their work experience because it is not directly affiliated. Yes, directly affiliated work experience is super helpful, but as somebody who worked at the Bowl Wheel and at Marie Callender's and at DZ Aikens, like I worked really hard. So I always look at what a student is doing besides just their schoolwork. I think that's really important. It shows, again, hard work ethic and diversity and like what they're willing to do. With internships that are affiliated with your major and your craft, those also go a long way. They're not anymore, and for me, if I'm looking at your resume, for me, they're not really weighted any differently because it shows that you took initiative to find something that you're passionate about and are willing to go the extra mile to put work and time into that, especially as students, because there's so many fun things to do when you're on campus, right? What kind of associations you belong to, I think are also important if you are in like accounting or a finance degree. So think about those memberships that are already available to you on campus and how you can get involved. And so the GPA to me, to us, doesn't really matter. The degree, making sure that you graduate that year is more important. Like we're gonna, it's hard work. You're gonna graduate, right? So those are the main things. I think the work experience, the type of internship, the types of involvement in clubs, or what kind of experience you're getting just from your extracurricular activities.
Yeah, you're evaluating the full experience, and especially those things that happen outside of the classroom, right? Because you're expected to go to the class and ultimately graduate, but you're not expected to do all of those extra things. And there's so many things that you could probably teach our students that they don't know when they come to work for you. And it's the things that you can't teach that you're really looking for, right?
That's right, and that's the other thing, you, like, when you are hired in an entry-level position, a junior position, any, really, like, the expectation is not that you know everything, right? Like, I think that's going back to the imposter syndrome, like, you're there to learn, and we're there to train, and, the best way to learn is to shadow your peers and colleagues and be a sponge. And you're there to ask questions and kind of challenge the status quo in a way, because there's a lot of people that have been there for a while. And having that curiosity and having that fresh look at a problem set is invaluable to a project lead. So just remember, like, once you are in the door to any type of firm, you should not be expected to have all the answers. No. So it's a growth experience.
Yeah, and you mentioned, for instance, AI is transforming business, and it's definitely a trend where Booz Allen is heading, right? It shouldn't be a mystery to you that AI is doing that, but you don't expect any of them to be experts in AI, right? Having spent years of experience, your students. But how would they look to you if you saw on their resume that they worked with our AI lab here at San Diego State?
I know, that's awesome. Yes, the AI, anything associated with artificial intelligence or innovative technologies. I know we have a great Zip, it's called the Zip, right?
Yeah.
Yes, so that particular program, entrepreneurship, yes, absolutely goes a long way. I think AI is transforming the way all industries work and how they take on work, but it's going to be an enabler. It's not going to take over consulting, and take over like my job or anybody's job. It's really the people that embrace it and learn how to use AI are going to be the ones that are going to have the differentiation between those that don't know how to use AI.
Yeah, and it comes back to that one unteachable thing that you mentioned earlier, initiative, right? There's so many of those things, but initiative being one of it, right? You could go in and start checking out some books from the library on AI and self-study and tell Ana about that, and she's going to be impressed with that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, I want to give our students an opportunity to ask you their questions, but before I do, what's one kind of piece of advice that you want to give them to help them, that they can do here on campus now as students to help prepare them for their career in the future?
Well, aside from graduating, I would really recommend that you work on like your pitch on what you want to do. Like, you may not know exactly what that job looks like. I certainly didn't. Like I mentioned, I graduated, I had no idea I was going to be in the consulting world. But look at your strengths and be honest about like what your strengths are. Are they aligned to what you want to do? Or are you passionate about a certain area that you still need to strengthen, if you will, to get you where you want to go? Consulting is not, it sounds like a sexy job as well. Like it's like, oh, I want to be a road warrior. Decide what type of consultant you want to be. I think that's where it is. Don't assume all consulting jobs are the same. So think about finance versus law consulting versus pharmaceutical consulting. There's so many industries where you could practice or the craft of consulting, but understanding where those passions lie, I think will be very important for you as you navigate the job search.
All right, I'm gonna open the forum to you, and maybe some of you haven't had a chance to kind of think about how to craft that question. So go ahead and start doing that now. But does anybody already know? Like, I got this burning question that I'd like to ask Anna. All right, we'll come over here, and I'll give you the mic so we make sure that you're heard.
So you just mentioned talking about building your own pitch and decide what you wanted to do. What was that process kind of like for you? And what was ultimately your pitch that ultimately got you into Booz Allen?
Good question. So for me, when I first started Booz Allen, I was really focused on international business and economic development. So I did talk about my internship that I took that was unpaid in Peru. And I talked about the importance of understanding the need on how I wanted to serve. So that was my pitch. I had some experience that I did on my own. And I was able to apply what I learned at San Diego State and through this internship to work at Booz Allen. That was my pitch was serving others. Does that help?
Yeah.
All right, we'll go over here next. I'm gonna give you some heads up. I'm gonna come to one of the females in our audience next because they're very underrepresented in this crowd. I think that might be consulting in general. I don't know, but I want to make sure you have a voice.
And Michael, thank you so much for coming here and presenting. Being part of this today. I feel like you give some very valuable insights, which I appreciate. So my question is, when you get into consulting, when you come off as in an entry level position, do you think it's better to first dive into, say, a specific field like IT, get some experience, and then move on to management consulting? Or do you think the opposite way is the better route, going into management consulting first, and then finding the niche that you want to go into?
It's a great question. So that's a tough one because Booz Allen is a management and IT consulting firm. So choosing the right consulting, if you're set on consulting, there's the McKinseys, the Deloittes, the Booz Allens, that is a different type of consulting than IT consulting. But they all have the same sort of framework, if you will. So for example, when I pivoted away from economic development and went into defense technology consulting, I had a skill set. I was analytics. So I was building these models in Excel that let our clients understand a budget against what they wanted to build. They wanted to build a ship. It costs this much money. You have this much in your budget, right? So what are those deltas? But in order to be a strong consultant, you have to learn the IT. You have to learn that particular industry's need. So I think they're intertwined. I don't think you have to choose management consulting or IT consulting, because depending on what you're passionate about, your functional expertise and that technology that's what you're going to be hired to do. That makes sense. They're all kind of one and the same. So you shouldn't have to choose.
Yeah, and these are great questions and all ones I'm happy to follow up on, talk more about, the different career paths, for instance, in consulting, right? Where you're either the generalist or you're the specialist, right? There's a different paths, but they can be the same in your case, right? So,
Right, that's true.
So I said I'm gonna call on one of our women in the audience. Is there any one of you that looks like we have that has a question? All right, Kayla, I was gonna pick on you actually, Kayla, if you didn't raise your hand because I've worked with you before and I knew you were gonna have a great question.
Oh, Erica, sorry.
I guess my question is that work-life balance has been kind of a hot topic lately, and I just wanted to know what yours looked like when you started versus what it looks like now, and how has it changed?
That's an awesome question. Work-life balance is, to me, it should not be used. I think it's more about work-life priorities, if you will. So when I started my career at Booz Allen, I mentioned, like, I spent a lot of time on my own, really trying to understand my client problem set. So that was time that I had to take on my own, and it required a lot of long hours. But fast forward now, I think you have to make, as you get married or whatever life changes you have to create boundaries, and you have to have a really good understanding at home, I'll say, on what's gonna be the priority of the day, the week, the month, the year. And so it ebbs and flows, but it's not a balance, I would say. I think it's more of a teeter-totter, like work is way more important this week, and then life is more, because your kids or other extracurricular demands, but the balance thing in reality is a very tough word, I think, in consulting in general. But going back to the gentleman's question around management consulting and IT consulting, because there's different types, there's what they call road warriors. So some folks are on the road from Sunday to Thursday, and that's a lifestyle choice that they want to make. And then others have more consistent, 40, 50 hours a week. Just really depends. But it has changed. Like early in my career, when I had more time, then I was willing to give more time. But as I had a family and had other priorities, then the boundaries came into play a lot more.
And Eric, I apologize about the name mix up. I'm actually kind of known to do that. That's one of my weaknesses, that I mix up names. But that was a great question, and thank you for asking it. Any other questions out there for
So my question also brings back into his question. You talked about how getting internship experience and campus life experience really helps sort of boost your resume to get into the industry. My question is, because I'm sort of a graduating senior, and I took a long time to sort of figure out what I wanted to do. I switched into business after 2 years in political science. Didn't really want to get involved with internships and stuff because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I don't really have a lot of the experience, but I've sort of been interested in management consulting since I got into a strategic management class and really enjoyed it. I went to the management consulting workshop on Thursday here, and now I'm here. So what would you recommend sort of in that instance to break into the industry? You probably can't just go right in without having internships or valid work experience, I would think.
Yeah, that's a great question. So you're graduating this year in the spring. I would still do, if you can, like in my experience, I had my internship after I graduated as well. So I took an investment of 6 months of an unpaid internship, and not everybody can do that. I was already a starting student, so I was like, what's 6 more months? But if you're willing to sacrifice some time and some income, then I would still try to get some type of consulting gig. Nonprofits are always looking for volunteers as well, so it doesn't have to be in like an industry. Your skills are going to be transferable. So if you want to, pick up like a nonprofit volunteer consulting gig, I would highly recommend it, just to understand like where they need help, what you can change in their business systems, like offer up your services. And I think a lot of nonprofits will welcome them. So that would be the easiest way, I would say.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I remember you at the workshop last week. You're one of the brave students who took on one of the case studies and helped break that down. So you're on your way, and getting that experience is just really kind of one of the pieces of the puzzle for you. Any other questions for well, I want to be
I don't need to think. So for applying to internships and when like you might be looking over someone who gave you your resume to look at, that wanted to recommend you to the company, what are some of the like most important things that you look for in obviously internships and everything, but like words, keywords, or anything, most important things that you look for in an internship in a resume? And if I was reaching out to somebody trying to get an internship, because I know them personally, what, is there any tips that you'd say like, that you would really, that would, call out to you?
Sure. So a couple of things, and this is a little controversial around cover letters. I don't read cover letters. So if you're gonna send a resume, it's just like the email, introducing yourself and the resume. Again, a little controversial for some folks, like they need the cover letter. But the words that I look for are actionable, like analyzed, developed, led. Those are the words that I would look to see, like, okay, what is it that you analyze? Tell me more, like, you led a team, you led a project. You built, a simple model that saved a nonprofit 25% of their time because they were like fat fingering, their, donor list, like those efficiencies that you could build, like some of the things that you probably take for granted today that are very simple for you, for the smaller businesses, not even just nonprofits, it would save so much of their time. So think about those mom pop shops that you visit, frequently or whatnot, and they probably have like these archaic, software systems that they probably don't even have that, and how are they looking at their customer base? How many are buying coffee at 2 o'clock every day or whatever it is? Like think about those small things, and those go a long way too. Like I wouldn't say like look for this longevity of an internship. Think about those quick hits, especially if you're going to graduate, on what you can do to help help a small business or help, like think about your relatives, your network on where they can help you with a small project and that can volunteer to do. But all of those things about analyzing, recommending, like if you built 3 options, we call them courses of action, or we call them alternatives, right? So somebody had a problem and you gave them 3, you go out and buy a car, you're not gonna buy the first one, right? You're gonna look at this one, that one, you're gonna evaluate, like, well, this one was red and they wanted black, and this one has more miles. So think about those decision-making things that you do in your life or what others do, and see how you can spin it and turn it around into something that you can, anyway.
Yeah, really great advice. And most students are good at talking about what they did, but they're not really great at talking about their accomplishments. And the accomplishments, those recommendations and what value they add can really set you apart. Branding and relevancy. You mentioned bonds earlier, right? If you're working at Bonds, you've got customers. Booz Allen has customers, right? You work for a team, they work for a team. There's a lot of transferable skills, but you got to talk about the things that are relevant to Booz Allen that you did at Bonds, right? Definitely something we can help you with. I know you were fearing the cover letter being a controversial topic, but it's just the truth, right? And that's why we're here. 90% of cover letters aren't read. So what I would try to do with you is tell you when and why, right? When would you do a cover letter, right? Well, you could be in competition. It could be you and someone else neck and neck, right? And you wrote a cover letter that tells Ana something that she couldn't find on your resume, something unique and special about you, and that could be the thing that gets you hired, right? So we can chat about cover letters and strategy for it. But yeah, when you want to be very intentful, if you draft a cover letter, don't just do a generic boilerplate one that probably likely isn't going to get read anyway. When it does get read, it can be a difference maker, and you want to write a difference maker type of cover letter. But your experience is, what most people's experience are, right? She wants to interview you, so you're going to tell her what she wants to know that generally would go in a cover letter there. Any final questions before we close out today? I can do one more. Romy?
When you're getting the mic, I do want to say that if you are interviewed by anyone, sending a thank you email afterwards goes a very long way. So.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank you for sharing your story and for sharing your service, being a student, and then your story as well, how you when throughout your career. So my question was, so consulting is a lot about working with people and working with groups, right? And working with teams of projects. So have you ever experienced when there is a person in your team who you don't get along with, or you're not really like the efforts your team made into your project, you will not satisfied with it. So how would you deal with these situations? What's
We fire them.
experience?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So yes, that happens all the time, right? Like you have a high performing team, but there's always, or not always, but sometimes there's like that team member that is not pulling their weight, right? So we, like as a consultant, as a team, we will not fail in delivering that product or that expectation to the clients. But on the back end, there is accountability to that. So there's performance reviews that happen. There's feedback loops in most large firms on performance. And so that accountability will come back. In real time, they usually provide feedback. The team will provide feedback. We call them hot washes. So after a project is finished, we talk about what worked well, what didn't work well, what we would change. And sometimes that feedback comes, and usually it's a project lead that delivers the constructive feedback, as we call it, to the individual that caused the team to, work extra nights and whatnot. But if you're talking about your own class projects and you have a project lead and you have those, then usually it would fall on the project lead to give that accountability back to your teammates.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, great question. I'm gonna throw a piggyback question on that. So what if they are good workers, but have a different philosophy and approach to doing things that just doesn't match yours? How do you make that work?
Kind of like similar philosophy as wrong as far as work ethic.
No, so I know, for instance, in consulting, there's this easy approach to problem solving, but let's say someone is quite successful at what they do, but their approach is very different. You've got two different ways of going about it, but at the end of the day, you're charged with working with that person to get the job done.
Right, so there are, that's a great question. So, and it's a great perspective because you will work with diverse teams and there will be people that may deliver, but may not have been as proactive or as engaged as you want them to be, but they got the job done. And so in essence, you have to respect the way people get to the same answer. And you will not always have that team that's high synergy, high energy, but you get the job done and you have to respect that as well, so be very specific and like, what is it that was very challenging? Because if they met the deadline, and did exceptional work, that's one thing. If they met the deadline and you still had to fix their work for 10 hours afterwards, and that's another, I think you have to address. But there are diverse ways of getting to the same answer.
Yeah, and part of being a leader in an organization like Booz Allen Hamilton is you're creating this work culture and you're trying to make sure that everybody kind of fits into that and can work well together. But you still also want to make an environment where everybody can be successful with who they are in their own way, and not to kind of conform to this one, linear path. Right? I want to be respectful of your time, but are you open to some students that might have some questions that they weren't necessarily want to share with us? Okay, so Anna will be up here for a little bit. If you'd like to come on up and chat with her, I invite you to do so.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Anna, thank you so much. It's a really good privilege to have you here. We're looking forward to our students having bright careers, something like yours. I mean, their own careers, but being like you. Thank you.